r/AskReddit. Serious, non-Americans of Reddit, what is something about America you admire? Verbal communication skills. When people are interviewed on TV, they can really explain in detail what happened and it is easily understood. It's like everyone has a communication major. In Australia we generally are really bad at this. For example, interviewing eyewitness to shark attack in Australia, it was pretty bad. This is a super interesting response I've never heard before. The most Australian thing I'd ever read right there. Nah. Films and TV shows. How the national identity is so culturally mixed. It seems like if you move to France, you don't become a French. You just become a foreigner. While everyone who lives in America at all is American. It's not a brag, but I'm not sure there's anywhere else like that in the world. I could move to Japan, live there 20 years, attain citizenship, speak fluent Japanese, marry some Japanese girl and have kids, but I will never be Japanese. Not to pick on Japan. Anybody can come here and be an American. The hospitality. Americans get a bad rap for being xenophobic, which I think is unfair and just based on the bad incidents we've seen in recent years. I go to the USA pretty often, I'm Irish-British, and everyone I meet is always so welcoming and friendly. Well, not everyone, everywhere has bad people, but it just seems like Americans generally are a lot more open and hospitable to strangers than I'm used to at home. Like, they'll just strike up a casual conversation with you just while you're standing at a street crossing or whatever. I remember one afternoon I went into a bar in Austin for a beer, and the guy next to me just sits down and says yep. So I just drove a truck down from New York. Hell of a trip. And we chatted for like an hour about his road trip Hollywood, or something, I can't remember lol. That doesn't happen where I'm from. Just shooting the breeze with a stranger. The Smithsonian Museums. Very cool and very fun to walk around and see. And they're free. Wait, they're free. I grew up in Maryland, 1 metro right from the district. The Smithsonians are a treasure. I remember being astonished when I moved to another city and realized most museums require you to pay to go inside. Your Constitution, way ahead of its time. The fact that you are a melting pot for many races. National parks. I had lunch with some Chinese friends who gushed and raved about the national parks system. And I asked them, what about China? China is as larger than America and has all the beauty, history, and different geography, etc. They said that unfortunately there is no national park system like in America. That if you want to visit a beautiful mountain range, for example, you have to pay an entry fee to access each individual mountain. Not just a general entry fee for the whole park, mind you. Everything costs money. Made me realize how fortunate we are to have the system in place. My husband gets a national park annual pass for Christmas from his mom every year, and it's so awesome to visit a park and just whip that card out and get waved through. Highly recommended. Your national parks. There are so many parks that I want to visit down there. Hopefully soon after the border restrictions pass. If you have a lot of time, see the Natchez Trace. It's an old trail from the early 1800s that goes north to south and covers 3 states starting in Tennessee and ending in Mississippi. There's lots of historic sites around the trail. Thanks Teddy. The amount of nature. Mountains, forests, valleys, deserts, waterfalls etc. Where I live we got a few hills and there's no place anywhere in the country that is completely untouched or so far from a civilization that you can't hear traffic etc. For any nature lovers out there that get a chance to visit the US, I recommend taking a look at Idaho, which I think is a bit of an overlooked gem. The Sawtooth Range is breathtaking. The Salmon River has world-class rapids, the Snake has incredible fishing, the Frank Church Wilderness is huge, if you like mountain lakes you can go up north for Coeur d'Alene or Pendo Rail, and if you like science there is Craters of the Moon as well as Arco, the first nuclear-powered town in the world. If you guys want you can go to pretty much any climate without a passport. You have tropical, desert, oceanside, lakeside, mountains etc. Best response, IMO. I've lived in many climates, and the PNW is by far my favorite. Here in Southern California I can see all of those climates in the same day. With the proper planning you could ski in the mountains in the morning, ride ATVs through the desert in the afternoon, and go for a sunset surf in the ocean in the evening. Having lived in 6 countries across EU and Asia, I can say the thing I admire most about America is that I can literally get anything I want. I may have to pay for them when other places offer them for free, for example health insurance. But whatever desire need I suddenly form, I am 99.99999% certain I can get it. And sometimes it's not even that unique of a desire. Sometimes they're just everyday things some take for granted. Like, I want to video call my family but I can't use Skype FaceTime because governments have their own paid version they force us to use. I want to buy arts and crafts supplies but I'm limited to a local bookstore because we don't have an infrastructure for e-commerce. I want to ship packages to my family abroad from a tech hub in EU but it's a hassle because nowhere sells shipping boxes. In comparison, America does not have the aforementioned issues and allows for satisfying the most complex or specific needs as well. Are you an immigrant who wants a taste of home? There are likely many insert your country here parts of town, even if it's a random supermarket that sells specific ingredients. Develop a unique interest or hobby. Odds are there's a convention happening within a few hours' drive in the next few months. Thinking of getting some cosmetic work done? You'll probably have a pool of specialists with online ratings to choose from. Want to give up on society and live off of what you grow? There's plenty of land to choose from. Want a pet tiger? You can and will be offered a Netflix series. America has its problems, but damn, I have never felt more able to pursue anything I wanted anywhere else. It's so big. Like, to be real, if you wanna do a road trip that's like 2 weeks, maybe more. A friend of mine had some guests from the UK. They wanted to drive to Disneyland for the day. From Maryland. That is 4,400 kilometers each way. Drinking fountains everywhere. And nearly all public toilets are free. I didn't have to pay to use the restroom in Mexico. I had to pay the lady in the restroom for toilet paper. The scale and grandeur. I'm used to nature being small, but everything in America is bigger. Bigger storms, bigger mountains, bigger horizons. Even the sky seems more. People in America are casually dealing with everything from alligators to bears, pitching tents on the sides of cliffs, and walking their dogs through literal wilderness. I genuinely feel like a hobbit watching Aragorn saunter through Middle-earth like it's nothing while I've never been beyond the Ented farmer Maggot's farm before. I love it. Funny you should mention the sky. I live on the Colorado Front Range, which is about 1610 meters above sea level. On an unpolluted day you can see every friggin' detail of the cumulus clouds in bright white. It looks like a hyper-realistic painting. I was just in Alaska. We could clearly see Mount Denali, which was 150 miles away. Mind-boggling. The feel of a small town with mom-and-pop shops and just a certain vibe. The convenience stores. Heads up to tourists coming in from out of country, you will be the talk of the town for a week in the town of 90 people. I'm American and I love this so much, that feeling never gets old. Your wildlife. Lots of beasties on that continent. This is one of those things I never really grasped until I was older. I grew up in Arkansas, and in my backyard I can remember seeing squirrels, armadillos, opossums, raccoons, bobcats, deer, whitetail, and elk. Not to mention there are also wild feral hogs and bears in the area. The wildlife around me is absolutely bonkers. Cornbread. Have you tried it with butter or honey? Or even better, honey butter? Growing up we had meals that were just baked beans and cornbread. Delicious. Landscapes. Nature is incredible. How cool it is. Admittedly they're accents except for that one element in the periodic table. The birthplace of rock music. Their muscle cars. The fact that they can be quite trashy in their presentation, unlike in Europe when you have to look and act a certain way. Anti-elitist and proactive mindset. Its biodiversity compared to Europe, or at least its spectacular natural world. Birthplace of the modern LGBT+ movement. I always hear complaints about the portion sizes, which is fair, they are big. But we gotta give America credit how socially acceptable it is to take the leftover food home. As a frugal Dutch person, this mesmerizes me and I'm very sad this is not as acceptable here. You shouldn't take unfinished food home. That's odd to me. Sometimes I'll order a large meal with the sole intent of taking some of it home for later. The variety of options. I'm happy to live on my island, but it means a lot of beauty and skincare isn't as available, and what is more expensive than the drugstore America gets. And shipping it is expensive too. I think it would be overwhelming though. Where do you live, if you don't mind? NASA is America's best PR. Sure, they could really use triple the budget to seriously get things done, but what they do is admired globally. You guys look like you can have sick road trips. The arts. Jazz, rhythm and blues, the early rock and roll that inspired the British invasion. The authors. The films. Some of the best roller coasters on earth. The strength of your universities and how diverse they seem. Not only they are all better structured than most and have excellent academics, I'm also a big fan of the sports department. Living in a third world country, I wish there was an easy path to become an athlete here. And your roads. That thing of making a car trip with your friends through the summer vacation is pretty much only possible in the USA. I remember reading On the Road by Jack Kerouac back when I was still finishing high school, and I really wanted something similar was possible in my country. Also your trains and general infrastructure in the countryside. Everything in the streets, from the sidewalks to the manhole covers to the traffic lights and things. To the actual state of the roads, well painted and clear, pretty buildings facades, the cleanliness, lots of nice smells. I think every little detail is beautiful, and I've visited several cities. People there are just oblivious to it. Also, I feel like people there owes an apology to every bus, train and taxi cab. Take one of those in Mexico City and you'll know what I mean. Their landscapes fucking slap. Oh, an air condition is just a thing. And water drinks are being served with ice at the restaurant. I don't think it's physically possible to survive a summer in South Louisiana without air conditioning. Older places in the Northeast don't just have air conditioning. A cruel fact I learned moving from a part of the US where air conditioning is assumed. Most modern places have it, and yes, it's glorious. Their tenacity. I think that comes from this country's origin being of independence. The founding principles ingrained in most people from the day they are born here is that if you want something you'd better go fucking get it because no one is gonna hand it to you. As an American, our motto shouldn't be e pluribus unum. It should be if you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough. Or if we still want to fit it on coins, we could use yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. I was in Tampa, Florida 2 years ago. I was impressed with the drive-through aspects of everyday life. I've seen drive-through restaurants, but never before drive-through pharmacies, drive-through banking, drive-through oil change for your car. Head north or west and marvel at drive-through bait and ammo shops next time. It's a sight. The variety of groceries. I want sugar-free. Boom. Everything. Oh, there's something we have at home, but here's 30 varieties of it. Special dietary restrictions? Don't have to order it. Here's the stuff at the local Target. I'm in Canada, and although there's a decent selection of these things, it's much better in the USA, cheaper too. Lactose intolerant here. You want non-dairy milk? Did you mean soy, rice, almond, coconut, oat milk, or fucking cashew milk? We've got 3 brands of each, in several flavors. Or just regular milk with lactose removed. Take your pick. I'm American, but that still blows my mind. The sheer scale of grocery stores is astounding. It added some milk alternatives I forgot about. Right on red. And we sometimes even have lefts on red unless that's just a Michigan thing It's like each state is a whole different country and I'd like to visit them all. That was the idea, originally. The founders of the US didn't see themselves as American, they saw themselves as Virginian or Georgian or whatever state they were from. The country was more akin to an economic and military alliance, which is why the first government used the Articles of Confederation. The Constitution didn't come until later, and it provided a much stronger federal government. When you get the chance and if you have time, get on the I-40 in North Carolina and drive it all the way to California with little side trips. It's like that scene in Cars where Lightning McQueen is being towed. You have that green vegetation tunnel in the east that opens up to plains, then the desert, even some pine forest in northern Arizona. Radiator Springs is basically the Arizona-New Mexico border area a little north of the 40. It really put into perspective just how diverse a place the US is, and even though I've literally moved from one side of the country to the other a couple times, it was one of my more memorable trips. Indonesian here. The rugged wilderness and national parks. The fact that seems like in most places you can get away from dense urban jungles to the forest in just an hour or 2 drive is amazing. And also, dense urban jungles like NYC and their street culture and bike messenger culture. And also, car junkyards and LS swaps, of course. Southern cuisine, from barbecue all the way to Creole type stuff. You guys know how to eat down there. No kidding. I'm Canadian, and about 10 years ago our city hosted some kind of barbecue competition or something. I happened to wander into it and was hungry, so I walked up to this table where these 3 southern men, angels, were serving up their barbecue. I casually ordered their brisket, and I swear to God angels sang when I bit into it. In my 39 years I have never, ever eaten anything so magnificent in my life. I nearly wept while I ate it, I swear to God. I dream of someday going to the southern US, finding, kidnapping those men and making them cook for me again.